So you've got an ultrasound, you know how to scan, you can get an image. What are you looking at that image, and what can you do, and what information can you get from those particular images? First things first, you need to get a good quality image before you can interpret what you're actually seeing. This mostly depends upon contact. If you don't have good contact with the uterus, and often this can be dependent on fluid, you're not going to get a good image of that fetal anatomy. To help with this, it's good to have curfews of feed and water. Water's typically not too important, so you can leave your cows on water overnight, but off feed overnight, particularly if it's dry, can be really helpful in getting that better contact with that uterine body. Your contact can also depend on your technique, so where you're pressing down on the uterus, obviously keeping in mind cow safety and avoiding those rectal perforations. There are only two signs of confirmed pregnancy, and these are when you see the fetus or when you see really clear placentation, so those clear placentomes or donut-like structures. Signs of a possible pregnancy can include uterine fluid, an enlarged uterus or fremitus, but none of these things definitively tell us that that cow is currently pregnant. Ensuring or confirming that a cow is open or empty means you haven't seen a fetus, there's no sign of placentation in either horn, you can't see a corpus luteum on either ovary. But if it's under 30 days, this is very difficult to confirm whether this cow is empty or if it's a really early pregnancy. Once you can confirm a pregnancy, you can get a lot more information by fetal aging to tell what stage of pregnancy that cow is currently in. This is mostly done by measuring the fetus itself. This is really accurate when it's done early, so less than 120 days gestation. Early aging accuracy is around plus or minus 10 days, whereas our late aging accuracy is plus or minus a month, and that's with an experienced operator. BCF has a really handy app and a tool that is great for converting the size of different fetal anatomy features into age gestation, and we'll touch on that in a minute. Most ultrasound setups in your visualizer will have a grid on screen, and this grid will have a certain measurement for each square. Usually this is around 1 centimeter. Some machines also have measurement calipers that you can put over the images, kind of like these ones shown on the right. In earlier pregnancies, we look at things like crown to rump length. So usually this is in pregnancies between 30 to 55 days gestation. And in later pregnancies up to 120 days, we can look at things like head width. So generally this is measuring between the eyes at the widest point. Similarly, chest width also has to be taken at the widest point, keeping in mind that this isn't quite as easy as it sounds because that fetus and often the cow are mobile as you're scanning. Eye size can be another measure for those later stage pregnancies where it's difficult to get the image that you want on either head width or chest width. As mentioned, BCF have a really great app where you can convert the size of certain fetal anatomy features into days gestation. They also have pretty good gestational age tables where you can just go down and check out those numbers. Some operators suggest that you can perform fetal aging by measuring the placentomes. So these are those donut-like structures or placentation that are peppered essentially around the fetal body. Placentomes naturally vary in size depending on where they're located on the fetus and on the maternal structures. As you start to get close to the cervix, they tend to be smaller. So in any one pregnancy, you can see placentomes of varying sizes. For this reason, placentome size can be an indication of pregnancy, particularly late pregnancy, but it's not definitive and it's not particularly accurate. You can also measure the uterine artery size, but this is more common in manual rectal palpation. This is important not to confuse the pulse from the pelvic vessels, and if you can't pick up that vessel and move it around, it is not the uterine artery. You also need to be quite careful in the case of twin pregnancies because you'll have a uterine artery per horn. There is also some variation in the uterine artery size between cows, so again, this is not highly accurate. There are a few different types of displays available. Generally, these are pretty set depending on what machine you buy. Pretty commonly used are the monocular eyepiece or binocular eyepieces. These are handy in the sense that you don't have to turn your head and look at a screen, but can continue scanning and keep an eye on that cow as you go. Some of these systems also link up to external monitors such as wrist displays or potentially even phone apps, which are pretty handy if you've got a team around you and are training up somebody to pregnancy scan. Accuracy at the end of the day actually just comes down to the operator. Figuring out whether a cow is pregnant or not is relatively easy. It's defining between empties and early pregnancies where most of these inaccuracies occur. For experienced scanners, veterinaries or authorized persons, this should be 99% plus accurate. If you're just starting out, it's important to set realistic goals a day. 100 cows per day is going to be really hard when you're first starting out, but once you're experienced, 1,000 plus a day is very achievable. Remember that pregnancy scanning, whether you're using ultrasound or manual palpation, is pretty physically demanding, so you do need to be physically fit to scan these big numbers. Remember that cow safety and the accuracy of your preg scanning is the most important thing ahead of speed. There's no point rushing through scanning all of these cattle only to have the wrong diagnosis, in which case, what was the point of doing it in the first place?